Hi, artists of the world. This is Natalia from Yes Art Marketing, and this channel is all about building a real art career from content to income. So, if you're into that, make sure to subscribe. This video is going to be short and informative. Today, I want to talk about something that I think a lot of artists really struggle with on a daily basis, but don't always know how to describe. That feeling, of having so much to do, ideas, projects, content, admin, maybe, many artists have also jobs, yeah, so maybe even a job on top of that, and somehow still doing none of it. Or maybe doing a little bit of everything, starting things, switching between them, getting overwhelmed, and in the end of the day, feeling like nothing really moved forward, nothing really changed, yeah, nothing got done. We all have very jumpy brains because of social media, and most of us almost completely lost our ability to focus at this point. So, ADHD, with all due respect to those officially diagnosed, I believe that most people who spend as much time as we content creators do on social media, we all have it to some degree. Focus is hard, getting stuff done is hard, and juggling 100 micro tasks in your head every day is really hard. And if you relate to that, it's really not because you're lazy or it's not your fault. It's usually because your brain doesn't respond well to many and also vague, open-ended tasks, especially when everything feels equally important. So with this video, I want to try and help you to improve your focus and productivity. The first thing I want you to pay attention is how you formulate the tasks for the day for yourself. For example, things like work on my art, grow my account, be more consistent. Those are not actionable tasks. They sound like goals, but they're just pressure. Instead of trying to become a perfectly disciplined, hyper-organized person overnight, which, it's unrealistic, it's much more useful to adjust the way you structure your work, the way you approach your work in a way that actually works with your brain, not against it. One thing that helps me a lot is reducing the number of decisions I have to make. For example, a big part of the overwhelm comes from constantly asking myself, what should I do now? What should I do now? Okay, so what's next? And if the answer isn't obvious, then your brain just avoids it, So instead of having a long, messy to-do list, try breaking things down into very small, very specific actions, as specific as possible. So instead of working on my art or work on my painting, you say, sketch for 20 minutes. Choose color palette for the next painting, refine one area, or just choose an idea for a painting and stick with it, yeah? And you add a time limit to that and boom, you got something done, yeah? Progress, something is off your list. So the trick is to describe things so clear that you don't have to think before starting. Another thing that makes a big difference is separating your work into types of tasks instead of mixing everything together, because creating art, editing content, replying to messages, doing admin, they all require different kinds of energy and different kinds of focus, yeah? So if you try to jump between them constantly, it's very easy to get scattered. This is how your day can easily get ruined, yeah? So it helps to group things. For example, one block for creative work, one block for content, one block for admin. It doesn't have to be super strict or rigid because somehow these things overlap anyway, right? I mean, content making is also creative in a way, but it's enough to reduce context switching in your brain. Even better, a simple structure that works well is having focus days or focus blocks. For example, one day or one evening where your only goal is to make art. Another is where you focus only on content. Another is where you handle practical things. If you can schedule these things per day, as in you can split your days between these different tasks and focus blocks, it's going to help you tremendously. And likely your brain is going to protest because you think by choosing one specific thing per day, you're letting everything else go and you feel like things are running away from you, and by making progress in one field, you're behind in the other. But consider that until now, maybe you weren't very successful at actually getting everything done at once, right? So maybe let's try and make peace with the fact that you're not going to try and do everything every day anymore. You're going to prioritize. You're going to minimize the clutter in your thoughts, minimize the distraction, maximize the focus on the task that's in front of you. You get into the zone and you get it done, okay? And that alone removes a lot of pressure. Another very practical thing is setting visible limits, because without limits, everything expands and you may end up not getting something done because you went too much into some details. somewhere, like maybe rewriting one caption for an hour instead of quickly writing 5 imperfect captions instead and getting that done. Yeah, let's avoid these situations when you sit down to work on something and suddenly 3 hours disappear and you're exhausted and you still haven't finished. So instead, let's decide in advance. I'm gonna do this for 30 minutes, or I'm gonna get this done in 30 minutes. Yeah, or I'm finishing this one part today before 4 p.m. Short, contained sessions are much easier to start and surprisingly effective if you do them regularly. Another thing that we also recently discussed in Yes Art Club with my members, and many agreed that this works like magic, is to make a starting point as easy as possible. If every time you want to create, you have to set everything up, decide what to do, get into the right mindset, you're adding barriers. They're minimal, but they aren't minimal because they work against you. Yeah, our brain perceives them as work. We tend to avoid that. For example, if you have to set up your easel every time to paint and then you have to put everything away and every day start and finish like this, it's exhausting. So even small things like leaving your easel, leaving your setup, your tools ready to work tomorrow, that's going to make a difference. Having a clear next step written down as specific as possible, that's going to make a difference. You can make it much easier to come back to something that you need to do if you have it prepared in advance. Another thing that's important, especially if you're balancing this with another job, is being realistic about your capacity. You don't have to do everything every day. In fact, trying to do that is usually what leads to burnout or avoidance or just feeling so much pressure on yourself that you just don't want to do anything. Yeah, well, avoidance. It's much more effective to decide what actually fits into my current life. Okay, maybe that's 3 focused painting sessions per week, or maybe one focused painting session per week, one content piece, small admin blocks. Yeah, maybe 1 hour per making content per week. That's enough if you do it consistently. It doesn't have to be all or nothing all the time. If you're doing something and it constantly squeezes the soul out of you, that's not sustainable and that's not doing your best either at this point. There's also a mindset shift here. Instead of measuring progress by how much you planned to do, measure it by what you actually finished. Small completed tasks build a business. Big vague plans usually don't. And one more thing that makes a big difference is having some kind of external structure. Not necessarily strict discipline, yeah, but something outside of your own head. Even, like a business buddy, another artist who can hold your hand and help you through this while you also do the same for them. You somehow can help each other with deadlines, accountability, a system, even, like a chat where you can regularly check in with each other. Because when everything is self-managed, it's so easy to drift. And, you probably know it already. You might use some help with that, yeah? So at the end of the day, this is not about becoming perfectly organized, this perfect version of yourself that is it would be great if you could, but and maybe you can't. That's normal. That's all right. You're a human being, yeah? It's about creating a way of working that allows you to move forward, even if it's a bit messy, yeah? Because consistency doesn't come from perfection. It comes from having a structure that you can actually stick to. And if you feel like you're constantly overwhelmed, you're starting things and not finishing them, or maybe you're struggling to balance all the different parts of being an artist, that's exactly the kind of thing I work on inside Yes Art Club with my members. We focus on having a simple, practical systems that help you organize your work, stay consistent, and actually move things forward, getting things done without needing to become a completely different person. And especially if you're someone who feels a bit scattered, a bit stuck, having that kind of structure, really having that kind of support makes a huge difference. So I'm going to put the link to Yes Art Club in the description of this video, and I'm also going to leave a promo code there that would allow you to unlock a free month trial in the club. Okay, so you can come check it out free of charge, no pressure, cancel anytime, but you can join us and see that this community actually helps you move forward, get things done, keep motivated, keep consistent, and build the art business of your dreams. But even if you don't want to join right now, but you want to take something from this video, I want you to take this. Make your tasks precise and specific, make them smaller and make them easier to start, and set deadlines. It's gonna help. I am open to questions. If you're struggling with ADHD and lack of focus, if you're an artist who's trying to get seen and sell art, comment here, let's get to know each other and let's get you the help you need.